Let's move on to part 5, shall we? Anyway, moving on from there. So, what therefore is, of course, you know what the ramifications and the repercussions would then be for that child who grows up seeing the authority figure at home being responded to in that manner. And then they go into their own home and they're trying to replicate the same thing subconsciously. They're not doing it at a conscious level. The experience that they had wrote a certain program, an excitable one, which became a trigger. In that program, neurons gathered these experiences. Those neurons wired together and they fired together. And because of that emotionally heightened state of admiration froze at the back of their minds into memory. And whenever they found themselves in a certain situation and they got trickles of respect as they defined it, it did something in them, something euphoric. It brought about bouts of euphoria and happiness. And so it fed a concept that was flawed but believed in. So they grow up with this notion and eventually they get married. Lo and behold, they try to get the same response from a spouse who's educated. And that is the beginning of trouble, of their nightmares. And rightfully so, because that spouse is there to help them grow, not to aid and abate their weaknesses. Do you catch my drift? This is the level of depth we're going to be going into in these conversations, and you will get to know yourself better. You will get to meet, greet, embrace, and love you for who you truly are, not for who the world expects you to be. So what are values? Integrity, honesty, and then of course we have the fruits of the Spirit. Love, unconditional love. We'll talk about that as well. Then of course there is joy. So when you come into a place and a space, ideally you want to bring joy with you, even if you can give it to everyone. If you have the right values, you will be able to manifest that. Then of course there is peace. We can only give that which we have. If you don't have peace, you will not be able to give peace. It goes without saying. Then of course there is goodness. And goodness can be subjective because it's not everything that you do, even with the best of good intentions, that plays out that way. But I use the word there. Intentions are always important. When your intentions are good, that's good enough. Because if you realize that you're not getting the results that you seek, you will adjust course. You will adjust for desired outcome. Input. Then there's whatever happens, the processing. And there's the output. And there's the outcome. There's the deliverable. And then there is value. So you're checking for value at every point in time. And value is simple to measure. Are the people around you being enabled, inspired, motivated? Do they want to aspire for even more? Are they growing, or are they shrinking and depreciating and being deprecated? Are they becoming redundant? Are they becoming more vocal, less boisterous? Are they becoming more confident, less loud? Are they becoming more assertive and less of a bully? These are the questions you want to ask yourself. These are the things you want to grapple with. And that is how you judge the impact you have and the influence and the import that you bring to every conversation. So we've talked about goodness, of course. Then there is kindness. If you have a kind heart, of course, you are driven by the need to do what you have to do while taking into consideration those around you. So there's goodness, there's kindness, and then there is patience. Patience is that thing that enables communication, which comes in two flavors. Communication, there's the conversation, and then there is dialogue. We'll get to see and bite into the nooks and crannies, the differences that these concepts behold, because they are deep and profound. So we talked about goodness, kindness, and patience. Patience allows us to communicate, and infinite patience, by the way, is unconditional love. Because if your patience can be stretched beyond its limits, it means there will be no room for contradiction or misunderstandings. If there is no misunderstanding and there are no contradictions, ultimately, then there will be no conflict. You and I will have absolutely no reason to be insecure. We will have every reason to remain vulnerable. I know that resonates with you. I could hear that fall. I could hear that land. In this context, we don't say the pin dropped. I could hear that 6-inch nail drop. And I know you resonate with what it is I just said. Moving on from that, the next or the last 3 fruits of the Spirit would be gentleness, of course. See, gentleness is a soil in and of itself. It is fertile soil, because when you are gentle, calm, collected, and composed, of course you have to be safe, secure, and comfortable in your own skin. When you can be that, you automatically and naturally pull people towards you. People would gravitate towards you, whether you want it, like it, acknowledge it, accept it, loathe it or not. You just become this receptacle, a place where even problems run to seek refuge. And that kind of power comes with plenty of responsibility, because otherwise you become a charlatan. Otherwise you become, as they would say, 419, fake. Let's not go down that route. We're keeping it positive, remember that. So that is gentleness. And then, of course, the other pearl, second to the last, would be self-control. When we lose self-control, we try to control people, places, situations, circumstances. We try to control our environment, and that in and of itself is a recipe for disaster, because we lose ourselves in the process, and then we start screaming and yelling. Whenever you start raising your voice, it's because you are losing self-control and slowly trying to control your environment. You're trying to control that entity that at best you can influence. Never mind the fact that there are areas which you can't even influence, which are completely outside of the scope of competence of your ability to control